First of all, happy Father's Day. It was funny, Thursday, Patty came to me and asked me to do this talk. So I'm scrambling around, looking through all my books, trying to think of ideas. And of course, I'm always thinking, always contemplating. So I had ideas related to some of the books I read. And then I had to come up with a picture. And so I just started, looking at different pictures. And I'm trying to show transitions. So I thought my dad was here a little over a month ago. Some of you may have met him. He actually came to Lion's Roar and sat in the back there on the couch and read a book while Patty did her talk. And then so, I was thinking, that's a transition. I've got this picture of he and I when I was little that you see there. And then us so many years later. I'm not going to tell you how many. It was a lot of years later. And I just thought, and then I realized after I got the picture, I realized it's Father's Day. After I already sent it to Patty and she was getting ready to send it out, I realized it was Father's Day. So it was just very synchronous that was what was in my mind, not even recognizing that it's Father's Day. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, I'm going to unshare now. There we go. So what I'm going to talk about today, and I should introduce myself too. I'm Linda Nunez. I'm a student of Lama Jinpa. I've been here at Lion's Roar, coming to Lion's Roar for about 3 years. I've been a Buddhist that has taken refuge since February of 2024. So if you noticed in the picture, that first little Linda that you see at about 3 years of age doesn't exist anymore, right? I've changed quite a bit since then. And we are actually never the same person from moment to moment. We talk about in that Buddhism quite a bit, in that all life is impermanent, that we're constantly changing. It's really obvious when you're looking at people from the time that they're children till they've grown. As a matter of fact, just watching children grow, it's amazing. A couple months can go by and they look completely different, especially when you're looking at babies. So it's really obvious to us then. But the funny thing is, since we're never the same person, we always have this illusion that we are. Do you think you know me? Are there people in here that think they know me? Now that I ask it, they're questioning, right? How can you really know me if I keep changing? You and I both cling to the illusion of who I am, and each of us have a different illusion of what that is. We go through multiple changes and transformations in our lifetime, and I equate it to the life cycle of a dragonfly. Anyone here familiar with dragonflies? I live on a lake. I see a lot of dragonflies, so it comes to mind that they have kind of an interesting life cycle. They start off as little nymphs that swim around the water. So the dragonfly lays eggs on the water, and so they're little nymphs that swim around the water. And in the first time of their life, or the first section of their life, they grow and they're constantly shedding their exoskeletons. So they grow a little bit, shed, grow a little bit, shed, until finally they shed their last exoskeleton and they emerge as a flying new insect. They completely change, a complete transformation. And this kind of makes me think of the sorts of transformations we go through in life. I know that I've been through a few, I've lost a few exoskeletons since that picture that you saw. I've been through some changes. I've gone through the Bardos of life. And that's really what we're talking about here today. The term Bardo is actually a gap. It means gap or intermediate state. And it is that state where we're transitioning from one way of being to another. There are actually 6 types of Bardos. And so we're going to talk about the first couple. The Bardo of this life is the period from birth to death where we accumulate karma. Within this Bardo are little Bardos. They're the everyday things when we've accomplished something. There's an intermediate state, or we've done something or experienced something, and we're moving on to the next thing. So I can give you the example in my own life. 3 years ago, my daughter went off to college. I got out of a 5-year relationship. I started a new job. I had all this free time I never had before. I mean, prior to that, I was a wrestling mom. So that's like a soccer mom, right? I was a wrestling mom for my boys, and I was a band mom for my daughter. And I did nothing but I was like a taxi, a wallet, and a cheerleader. That was it. Taxi, wallet, cheerleader. And that was my life. And then all of a sudden it stopped. And I know a lot of people get really weird about the empty nest thing, but I was excited. I started coming here. I started learning how to meditate. I joined Toastmasters. I was having fun. So for me, there was that gap, and I felt like this is my opportunity to kind of reinvent myself. And so that's what I did during that Bardo. There's also the Bardos that Pema Chödrön talks about, where we're sort of forced into it. This is the gap that catches you by surprise and shakes you out of your reality. I hate that this thing isn't kind of making it hard for people to see me. Maybe I should just fold it. Do that. It shakes you out of your reality. It forces you to stop because it grabs you and makes you stop and consider what's going on. So I think a good example of that for a lot of people is when they've hit rock bottom, right? When you've gone through something and it's hurting you to the core and you decide, I just can't do this anymore. You are in the Bardo, right? You're in the Bardo. You're considering how you want to move forward. You're removing that exoskeleton and moving on to the next phase of your life. It brings with you a new stillness of your new reality. So I'm going to be sharing stuff of my own. And my hope is that toward the end of the talk, when you will share some of your Bardos as well. So I had a Bardo just on Sagwa Dawa. Wasn't that last Wednesday? So I was sitting here at 6:30 in the morning doing the prayers, and I was using my phone because we didn't have enough prayer books to go around. And so as I'm reading it, all of a sudden I see my dad's calling. I'm like, what? Right? It's early. He lives in Florida, so it's not quite as early for him, but that's really unusual for my dad. So I couldn't take it because I'm doing prayers. And so, and then he messed up my prayers and I had to fix it. So I'm fixing it. And then as I was driving home, I listened to the message that he left on my phone, and it was really unusual, kind of shocking, actually, here. So I'm gonna play. It was 2 minutes long. So apparently he called me, and I thought maybe it was a butt call, and then 2 minutes go by, and I'm nosy. So if somebody butt calls me, I want to hear what they're not knowing I'm hearing, right? So I'm listening to him, and he got off and on the phone. I could hear him clicking around on the computer. And then this is what I heard toward the end. You guys hear that? So mind you, it was really quiet. So I'm in my car and I have the volume turned all the way up because I'm trying to hear everything he says. And then I hear that and I'm shocked. Not that he cussed, because I know my dad, that's fine, but because it was so loud, right? And so emotional. So I call him back and I say, hey, Dad, I think you butt called me. And he said, well, no, I didn't, Linda. He said, I've been on the phone all morning with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, who called me and said that you were in jail because you had hit a pregnant woman who is now in critical condition. I heard you crying on the phone. It was your voice. And they were telling me or giving me the instructions to go about to paying for your bail. So he was clearly really shaken up. So what we heard there on the phone was him taking a moment to Google this and find out that he's being conned. So the reason why this is a Bardo for my dad is you'd have to know my dad, but he's a Republican that researches everything and always knows the backstory to everything, very confident in his opinions. And he's the kind of person that will that would tell you about all these other cons that people are experiencing, because of course he'd never experienced it. So what he learned was that he's vulnerable, especially as he gets older, right? He's vulnerable. He's not the solid person he thinks he is. And I know in talking to my brother, he's still kind of reeling from that experience because it shook him. For one, he believed it was me. You know what I told him too? I said, Dad, if I ever actually go to jail, just leave me there, right? Don't worry about the bail. I'm good. I'll figure it out. But he was so shaken by the experience and the fact that he always thought he was beyond that he would not be the one that gets conned. So the Bardos here are like the cracks in the Matrix. You guys have seen the movie The Matrix, right? It's like when things don't look as they should look, or they don't feel as you're accustomed to them feeling. They're the experiences we start to see when we're peeking through the illusions. In my own life, many of them have followed traumatic or disturbing experiences that have forced me to stop and reflect before I move forward, right? So something traumatic may have happened, and then and kind of like, I guess this is for my dad, right? Then I have to stop and reflect. What do I feel about that? What do I think about that? How is it impacting me? How does it change the way I see the world? And actually, I'd say a lot of those experiences were the ones that changed the way I see the world. And then you also consider, what component of that do I have control over, where I can actually change my behavior in a way that if it wasn't working out right, that I can at least prevent it from happening again. So there's a lot of contemplation that can go on during the Bardos. Okay, so I also feel, and you tell me if you feel this too, that we're kind of going through a Bardos as a society right now. Do you guys feel that? I mean, with all the stuff even going on yesterday, we're going through the Bardos. We don't know what it's going to look like. It feels like we're transitioning. Right now. It feels like we're transitioning out of democracy, right? Who knows what it's going to look like, but it's uncomfortable. It's a little bit scary. So there's a YouTube person that I follow. It's called Buddha's Wisdom. And for the Bardos, they had some advice for people, and they call it the REST. It's the REST acronym, but R is for recognize the state that you are in. So when you're in this transitory space where you're getting rid of an exoskeleton and moving on to something different, just recognize how you're feeling. Like my dad, right? He had to recognize that he was being pulled in by his anxiety and his love for his daughter. Embrace it without judgment. So don't beat yourself up for having the anxiety. Don't beat yourself up for having the fear. Just recognize what it is and understand it. See through. So the S is see through. Notice the transitory nature of the experience. So whatever you're experiencing now isn't going to stick with you. I wish teenagers understood this. I remember during COVID, COVID was a bardo for a lot of people, especially teenagers. I think all of the teenagers I knew that were in my daughter's age group, they were all on antidepressants. All of them were having depression problems. And we had to keep telling them, this is temporary. It will get better, right? We had to keep telling them that because they only understood right now I'm miserable and this is not working for me. And you just didn't want them to harm themselves, right? So we have to understand it's transitory, that this doesn't last forever. This discomfort, it goes away. And then finally, you transform. You grow the wings. You come out of the water. You don't succumb to it. So this is the advice from Buddha's Wisdom. You might want to check them out. They're kind of cool. They got a lot of good videos. There's also the Bardo of dreaming. So this is essentially our dream time when we are not limited by the constraints of our body. So I'm going to share you a Bardo of dreaming that I believe has stuck with me and transformed my thinking. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how it transformed it. And this is a recent dream. So, and I shared it with Lama, but I had this dream that I was going to the gym and it was nighttime, so it was really odd. And there was, so like I was going to spend the night at the gym, which was weird. You know, dreams are weird. And it felt threatening. I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but gyms can feel like a meat market. You know what I mean? So it felt like that. And I felt like I had to protect myself, especially since we're spending the night there. And in this gym, we were walking on water, like the floor was water. How weird is that? So I'm walking over to the juice component, like the juice place in the gym, and I'm getting like a Jamba juice, and I'm talking to a Tibetan football team. And I'm saying, yeah, I know. I've met lots of great Tibetans. We have Geshe Gendun that came recently, and like I'm going through Geshe Dumsla, and I'm going through all these people that I've met, and as I'm doing that, I'm holding my juice. Something comes out of the water and grabs my straw. I'm like, what's going on? Okay. Then it comes up and it's like poking at my leg. And then something comes out of the water and tries to grab my juice. And so I'm looking down and I could see there's something in the water. And so, of course, this is a dream. So I slipped into the water and I befriended an octopus. So I'm swimming around and dancing in the water with the octopus. I'm not afraid of the octopus. And I look the octopus in the eyes and I recognize that I know this person, that we know each other. And we're so happy that we found each other. And then I wake up. So I shared that dream with Lama. The very next day, I came here and I was talking to Connor. And Connor says to me, you know, lion's roar is kind of like an octopus. They have multiple arms and all the arms have to come together for it to move. And I said, what did you say? So it was really odd. It kind of struck me. So maybe my octopus is lion's roar. I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. But that was for me a bardo of dreaming. It's one of those dreams that you're trying to understand. And I've got this affinity with octopus now. Everywhere I go, I want to get an octopus, right? I'm going to start an octopus collection. And I'm just fascinated with them. I watched a documentary on octopus. So that to me is an example of the bardo of dreaming. And then there's the bardo of meditation. So in the bardo of meditation, you are fully immersed in the meditative state and free from distractions of daily life. Right? We've all learned to love and appreciate what meditation does for us. So I'd actually like to give us 2 minutes right now for us to do some Pashna meditation, which is analytical meditation, if you're not familiar with the word, on your own bardos. All right. So we're going to do 2 minutes of a Pashna meditation on your own bardos. Okay, let's slowly come back. So that was actually also a bardo in my talk, because I'm going to transition. Death is one of those things Americans don't like to talk about. I'm very strong in the Vajra Buddha family, if you're familiar with that, which is why I like talking about the things other people don't like to talk about. So we're going to talk about the bardo of dying. And I don't know if you are familiar with this, but the Tibetan Book of the Dead is actually called the Bardo Thodol. It's believed to have been written by Padmasambhava. It was a terma, which means it was a hidden text that they found 500 to 700 years after they believe it was written. So what we're learning here are summarized versions of the Bardo Thodol, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So we have next the Bardo of Dying. This is the one that they speak about, letting go of our human life once our bodies can no longer function. So basically, it's dying. Then there's the Bardo of Dharmata, which is the nature of reality. And this begins once our consciousness has separated from our bodies and we experience the infinite expanse of the basic nature of reality. And actually, during this stage, while you're dead, you can actually potentially become enlightened. Then there's the Bardo of Becoming. This is when the karmic inclinations from our lives propel us toward our next incarnation. So I hear a lot of scary stuff goes on in this stage. It's complicated, but I mean, this could be weeks and weeks of Dharma talk, and I'm really summarizing here. I think it's kind of like the life review that you hear people talk about in their near-death experiences, where they get flashes, kind of like a movie. I think this is what people experience. And so based upon that, you're actually determining through whatever process, I don't claim to completely understand it, what is a suitable life form for your next life, which won't necessarily be human. I'm pretty sure my biological father is going to come back as a cat. He's a cat dad. That seems to be the only thing he loves. He's going to come back as a cat. So there's actually 6 realms, the God realm, the demigod realm, the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm. You can come back in any one of those realms. Human is only one of them. Because I like to prod people and ask questions, and because I talk about things like we're talking about here, I'm also an instructor. I have been at times for the state. I used to teach executives at the state some of the most important functions of their job. One time I was in a class getting ready to facilitate, and we had somebody that was in there early, and he had shared that he had died and come back. And so I asked him, if you're willing to share, did you happen to have a near-death experience? So this guy was a former correctional officer. And he said that he had, and he was willing to share it. He said that he felt like he was fighting all these evil entities. And he was really happy when he came back to life. And as a result of that experience, that bardo that he experienced, he was a devout Christian. So it transformed him. It scared him, apparently. Actually, we would call that experience that he had in Buddhism, he was confronting the wrathful deities. So these experiences you have when you die are really manifestations of your mind. So apparently, if you're a correctional officer, you've got a lot of wrathful deities in your mind. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So about 1/4 to 1/3 of the world's population believe in some form of reincarnation. There are so many stories on this topic that it could take days of Dharma talks alone. We Buddhists believe in reincarnation. And I know that within Tibetan Buddhism, there's different methods that they go through to determine if a person is reincarnated. You are aware that the Dalai Lama is considered a reincarnated person, going all the way back to Avalokiteshvara. Oh, I'm not going to say it right now. Avalokiteshvara. Did I say that right? I try. I was close. Avalokiteshvara. Okay, close. But there was a process that they had to go through to see if he was the reincarnated Dalai Lama prior that goes all the way back to Avalokiteshvara. I said it kind of right. According to the law of the conservation of energy, I remember hearing that Einstein said this, but actually it goes back to the law of conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. And we humans emit about 100 watts of energy when resting. So right now, I always wonder, why can't we just plug a light bulb into that, right? 100-watt light bulb. When we die, that energy is being transformed. So the law of conservation says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. We're saying the same thing in Buddhism. Our energy isn't created or destroyed, it's only transformed. This this is my phrasing, an energetic imprint transference. So we know the energetic transference we're talking about. Now we're going to talk about where the imprint comes from. How we live is how we die, said Shantideva. In Pema Chödrön's book of the same name, she talks about the Bardos of dying and the fact that the mindset we develop while we're alive allows us or follows us into the next life. When I was reading this book about a year ago, Geshe Gendun came to visit us to teach in mind training, and he was saying the same thing. What we develop as our habits and thoughts now are what we take with us into the next life. This is why we need to train our minds and clean them up to the best of our ability now. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, our bodies go through 6 stages when we die based on the elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space. So the earth dissolves into water. The body mass, so our muscles, our bones, all the more solid components of us dissolve into the fluids. So we become like mush. Lovely, right? Water dissolves into fire. We dry up and we get thirsty. Fire dissolves into air. We lose our heat and get cold. Now, so far, when I'm sick, I feel like mush on the couch. I'm thirsty and I'm cold. So that totally makes sense to me when I'm sick. The fourth one, air dissolves to consciousness. We can't breathe. So I can't say when I get sick, I get the experience that I can't breathe. So that's a little different. Number 5, ego dissolves. All phenomena are gone. Everything we thought was me is gone. Our understanding of life and its constructs are gone. So the sense of you starts to leave. And then finally, consciousness merges with space. Westerners would say you're dead, but Buddhists say consciousness dissolves into space in an inner dissolution. The dead experiences psychedelic periods of colors that last for about 20 minutes. That's what they say. So this is why they will not immediately move a body, because it's still going through the Bardos. It's also one of the reasons why charnel grounds are so popular in Buddhism, because they're communing with, we can't call them souls, they're communing with former people, moving on, transitioning to another life or to a Bardo, right? During the time that they're at the charnel ground. So there's a lot going on. So what is it that continues to go from lifetime to lifetime? I just mentioned we don't use the word soul in Buddhism. And I think that was the first or second question I ever asked Lama, like upon meeting him, right? You believe in reincarnation, but you don't believe in a soul. So what's happening, right? Padmasambhava said, my view is higher than the sky, but my attention to my actions and their effect is finer than flower. So what does he mean? Namshe. Namshe is a dualistic consciousness of ordinary enlightened awareness, which includes our habits, tendencies, and propensities. It's essentially our karmic baggage or merit, so baggage or merit that we create that follows us into this from lifetime to lifetime. It's kind of like, and I've heard this example mentioned before, if you can consider the metaphor of a candle, right? That you can take the flame of one candle and light another candle with it. This is similar, the energy. We're transferring the energy to another candle or form of some sort. So it means that when we're talking about the energetic imprint or the karmic baggage or merit, what are we talking about? What is the reason that Padmasambhava is paying such fine attention to the effects of his behavior? If you are a jealous, angry, vengeful person in this lifetime, that's what you will take with you. If you are a scared, victimized, resentful person in this lifetime, that's what you will take with you. If you are a greedy, selfish, self-absorbed person in this lifetime, that's what you will take with you. If you are a loving, compassionate, wise person in this lifetime, that's what you will take with you. So it's all on you. Like our lives, all things are also impermanent. So even Namshe, this consciousness, dualistic consciousness, is also always changing and evolving, like the scenes from a movie. It's an amorphous consciousness. Essentially, how we deal with the smaller transitions in life now is a sign of how we deal with the bigger ones later, even in death. How we relate to things falling apart now is how we will relate to them when we die. But also, learning how to let go of our form, learning how to embrace physical death, teaches us how to live, how to embrace the totality of our precious human life. Why do we want to wait until the end of our lives to do that? I'm not little Linda anymore, sitting on my dad's knee. And did my dad look like Woody Allen? He totally looked like Woody Allen. He did. And he doesn't look like Woody Allen anymore. And he is vulnerable, which he didn't believe he would be. We each have gone through years of Bardos and shedding of metamorphic exoskeletons to get where we are, and we aren't done. I'd like this time now for you guys to share some of your Bardos in life. I don't think you're dead yet, so I won't know about those. If you remember past life and the Bardo in between, you can share it. But any Bardos you want to share, please do.
Step to the side. So I think for me, being married, there's a lot of Bardos. And I remember when I met my wife, I had this certain view of how she was. And I thought, oh, well, we've been dating for 5 years. And so I know who she is. But like all the things that we've been through in our life, she changes dramatically. Like when we had kids, it was like, wow, where did this person come from? And it was because I'd never seen all those hidden values and all those layers of things. She had a stroke a few years ago and her personality totally changed. And I was like, wow, where did this person come from? And so I think from practicing Dharma, I've had this kind of loose thing about like not trying to pigeonhole people into certain, positions. Yeah, yeah. And so, but it's been really helpful because there's not this solidity, and so it also gives people room to develop. When we pigeonhole people, it's just like there's no room there. And of course, we're going to be upset. For sure, we're going to be upset. So thanks.
Thank you, Brad. I'd even say that goes for when we learn things about ourselves. Like we think we know who we are. My dad thought he was impenetrable. He's not. Only, can you?
Thank you, Linda. So I have a lot of Bardos, but I'm going to skip the kind of ordinary Bardos that we all go through, like graduating and getting married, having children, those kinds of things. And I'm just going to talk about the traumatic Bardos that I've had, because I've had a few. So I guess the first one would be this triple rollover car accident that I had back in 1996. And it resulted in a herniated disc in my neck. So I had to have neck surgery, and I still don't have complete mobility back. And I don't have any strength left in my right arm, barely any strength left. So I can't lift heavy things with my right arm. So that really changed things. I couldn't do the work that I was doing. So I had to find a different path to make some money. So that was one Bardo. And then the second Bardo, traumatic Bardo, was when I decided I had to leave my husband because he was abusive. And oh boy, that really changed my whole life. Excuse me, turned upside down again, because I lost everything. He stayed in the house. He kept the kids because he wouldn't let me have them. So I could only see them for maybe 3 hours a week. I lost everything. I just had the clothes that I wore, and I had no furniture. I had the little bit of money I had in my bank account. So that really changed everything. And I had to work 7 days a week to stay on my feet. So that was a Bardo. And I felt like I lost my daughter. She had a really tough time with it. And my kids were 10 and 12 at the time. So, I mean, any time is a difficult time, but I think that was a really awful time for my daughter, because she's going to become a woman soon, and she's got no mother at home to guide her through any of that. So I felt really bad. And she wasn't awfully kind to me for years after that. And then my third traumatic Bardo was when by this time I'm in a new relationship, and he's my fiance at the time now. And he's an artist like me, and he painted murals, and he had me do a lot of work for him. I did a lot. So I'm working on the mural one day when it was the only time I was ever alone. And, a few of you know this story. So I'm on the scaffold, and he had taken the safety bars out off of that level where he wanted me to finish up the work there, because he wanted to see everything, and he felt like it blocked the parts that he wanted me to touch up on as a final part of the mural. So I'm on there, and he said, "Take a chair up there so you can be comfortable." And I must have scooted the chair back a little because it went over backwards, and I fell on the sidewalk below on my head. So my brain was bleeding. I was in ICU for 3 days, and then another 4 days in the hospital. That completely changed my life, and I haven't recovered from that. I have things that I carry with me. So that was the third Bardo. But the good thing that came out of that was that I got my daughter back. I will never forget the look on her face when she walked in to the ICU and saw me, and I saw love again, for the first time in years. So that was the silver lining for that horrible event. And then I found this practice, and through this practice, I can recover from all of that. And I'm working on that still. And you were talking about taking your karma with you, and I feel like through the things that I've suffered through, because, and there are others, as you know, because you're my dear friend and I've talked to you, other traumas that I've had, but I hope that maybe I cleared some of that away by going through them, and maybe I won't have to take them with me. And I know for a fact that this practice definitely helps, because I can look at them and not just feel like, oh, why did that happen to me? And feel sorry for myself. I can look at it as an opportunity to either not do that again, not go there again. I forgot to mention that after the fall on the scaffold, the other Bardo was my then fiance, decided that he couldn't cope with my not being able to do things for him like I used to be able to, as I did so much, including working on his projects, that he kicked me out and wanted to date. So that is what brought me here, back to Sacramento, and I found this. So I'm grateful for all of that, all of it. Anyway, those are my lovely Bardos.
Hey, Linda. Thank you for your talk. It was great. And I really appreciate your vulnerability when you speak also. I just have a quick one. About a year and a half ago, a friend asked me if I wanted to come see this temple, Buddhist temple. I had never been to one before ever and didn't have any expectation as far as like I'm going to somewhere new and foreign and like thinking of it more like a museum than anything. And I walked in this room, and this is more of one of those Bardos of like transformation unexpectedly. So it's the minute I walked into this room, like this immense feeling of familiarity and also sacredness just came over me. And it really hasn't ever left. Every time I come in here, it kind of feels like a warm blanket, or that's how I would describe it. So coming into a foreign place and having this really crazy sense of like it's familiar was really just a huge turning point for, I won't go into all the reasons, but a really beautiful thing and unexpected. So it's always nice when something positive comes into your life unexpectedly. Thank you.
Thanks for your talk, and I'll share a short Bardo, but then a question. Um, the right now I'm kind of in the Bardo because I'm in the middle of a divorce proceeding. So that is the Bardo, and typically I have a hard time with a lot of uncertainty, and I, in the past have rushed decisions because just to have that certainty, whether it's the right decision or not, at least I would know how to operate. So, the divorce in California has got to be a minimum of 6 months, but you have a lot of decisions to make. So I'm really trying to approach it differently so that I can make good decisions and take the time that's necessary and all that stuff. So there's actually a lot of value in the Bardo experience, and also recognizing that in a way we're always in the Bardo. We're never like on solid ground. We just think we are. So I think that there's a lot of value in experiencing it and sitting in it and learning to work with it. But the question I had, because I really liked the acronym you gave, could you repeat the acronym? I remember you said recognize. What recognize, what was the E?
Oh yes. It's not a website. It's a YouTube video producer called Buddha's Wisdom. Is this on? Okay. It's recognize the state you're in, embrace it without judgment, see through it, Notice the transitory nature and transform. Recognize the experience without succumbing to it. So it's REST. And I get it from Buddha's wisdom. Thank you. We're going to move on to closing prayers.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones. Merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators. Please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion. Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom. Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras. Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages. Losang Drakpa, I make requests at your holy feet. So, do you want to say something? Okay. So, thank you, Linda. That was amazing. I mean, imagine Linda pulled this together from Thursday to now. I knew what I was doing. So thank you. Like I said, Linda, it was just, nobody would imagine you did that in that short amount of time. But I wanted to let everyone here know that next Sunday, we're celebrating Lama Jinpa's birthday. And it's very special just for this fact that it's his birthday. But it's also special. One of the things that we do is that some people come, they're poets and dance and singing, and they offer these gifts to Lama Jinpa, but we all, just by being around, benefit too. So that's really fun. And then we have, in July, we have a teacher visiting named Tenzin Choki. And she's, I can't recall, I should know this, but I can't recall the name of her workshop, but it's available on Eventbrite. On our website, you can find it, Tenzin Choki, on the calendar, and you can have access to Eventbrite. So she's a former Buddhist nun. Her name's Tenzin because she's a student of the Dalai Lama. She took refuge with the Dalai Lama, and that's how you have that name, Tenzin. But she's very down to earth, and when you talk to her, you feel like she knows you. Like, it's such a warm feeling when I see her, because I don't spend time with her, and she always is like, "Hi, Patty. How are you doing, Patty?" Something about saying my name so many times in a sentence. I'm like, I just feel so melted. I'm like, oh, I can't explain it exactly, but you would feel this way too. And I hope you can spend time with Tenzin Choki. She's dedicated her life to helping others, and she's a really great inspiration. And so those are my announcements, but there's more to come. Maybe Brad has, Brad, can you use the mic for online?
So we exist on donations, and we have a donation box in the back corner, and then we also have a kiosk with a card reader if anybody wants to make a donation from their credit card. So thanks.
We are sharing yes. So what Linda said, for those online that might want to help out with this mic situation, we have one mic that works right now. And I'm not sure with everybody's help together, maybe we could have 2 or even 3 mics. So it's more than that. There's a receiver, speakers, a little system we need to update. Okay, thank you so much, Linda.
Om Nandi Om